But I think it's funny how we actually have custom water blocks available for the 5700 XT before we even have the...
Dude, seriously?
Oh, I gotta take this. Hey, what's up? What? New graphics cards? Dude, what, a 2180, 2180 Ti? Oh. 2080 Super? That's super. So I recently took a family vacation, and that means I went to airports and overseas, and the worst thing you could possibly do when you're traveling is connect to a public Wi-Fi, which is everywhere, and it's tempting. Trust me, we've got to get our social media fix. But the worst thing you could possibly do is connect to a public Wi-Fi because that makes all your information public to prying eyes. That's why I took NordVPN with me on this vacation, and they're sponsoring today's video. Now, NordVPN has more than 5,700 servers across 60 countries, meaning that practically anywhere in the world that you may be, you can connect privately and keep your data safe and secure. Now, the best thing about NordVPN is it doesn't just secure your desktops and your laptops, but also your personal mobile devices like iPads, iPhones, Android devices, which means when you're out and traveling, you can connect safely and securely. Now, they use military-grade encryption, which means that your data is zipped up in a very encrypted file and then sent off to the server and then sent out to the internet, which means you have a one-on-one safe and secure connection between you and the NordVPN servers. And like I said, with over 5,700 servers across the world, it means that you are guaranteed a fast and secure connection regardless of where you are. So whether you're out and traveling and enjoying some time away, or you're just sitting at home watching some YouTube channels, get your internet safe and secure by using NordVPN. And right now, viewers who use my offer code JayzTwoCents at checkout will get 75% off a 3-year membership and a month for free. So start taking your internet as seriously as you take your gaming. Secure your internet connection using NordVPN using the link in the description below. Very rarely do products come through here where I feel they're not worth the effort. You know what? This card's existence, the 2080 Super, could have been handled with a newsletter. It's what happens when you replace the 2080 with a supermodel, and the 2070 with a supermodel, and the 2060 you add a 2060 supermodel. I mean, this is them doubling down on the 1660 and 1660 Ti. Well, we need two 60s in the Super. Well, not in the Super, in the 20 series. So here we are, 2060 and 2060 Super. But this channel exists because we review product, and I'm gonna do it. The 2080 Super. It's got 128 more CUDA cores, 2 more SMs, from 14 teraflops to 15.5, a little bit faster boost clock, same exact cooler. Done. That's literally all that needed to be said.
But what about benchmarks?
Oh, yeah, I guess we can show some of those. So I'm gonna stop wasting my resources and my time right now when the very first time spy benchmark is all we needed to see what the performance increase on this was gonna be. Guess what? When you're introducing and testing and benchmarking the same generation of graphics card and it fits in a certain slot, that's where it fits in through the entire testing suite. It doesn't change. Well, what kind of changes when you add AIBs and stuff like that? And we'll talk about what makes this card a little bit different, but that's, again, a carryover from even the previous gen. I almost said previous generation. From the previous that. Now I know I sound salty here, but there's a couple reasons behind that. And now this is gonna be prefaced with tinfoil hat wearing, conspiracy theorying speculation. That's the best word to use on that. This is a TU-104 architecture with 128 more CUDA cores, 2 more SMs. I don't even think there was a bump in like RT cores or any of that. If there was, Phil can correct me on screen. But it's a non-shaved down version of the TU-104 that's existed for the last, well, over a year and a half now? Well, that's, in my opinion, a little bit of a, well, as Phil put it when we talked about this offline, a breach of trust, because now do we know that this is truly And we know now at launch that this was more than likely, the 2080 was just, this is the 2080, it's just uncut to the point, uncircumcised, if you will, where we are getting all the performance that you would get out of it if it is still the fully unlocked die, and which brings us back to the Pascal family of cards, where, remember the Titan XP? Haha, just kidding, this is the real Titan XP? I was dealing with that around the Terry Crews build 2 years ago, where suddenly they dropped a bombshell of, hey, guess what, here's a new Titan with 512 more CUDA cores. Well, I mean, it's not all bad, right? Because if you're getting the card with more performance and more specs, nominal bump in specs regardless, for the same price, that's a good thing. Unless you already have a 2080, then you kind of feel like it was another slap to the face, but it's never really been against, I guess, the culture to kind of slap the previous adopters across the face when it comes to your architecture. Again, I don't know that this is not some sort of a revision to the manufacturing process, but I know that NVIDIA really touted how they spent 10 years and $1 billion of development for the TU architecture to suddenly in a year and a half to change the manufacturing process to somehow cram more CUDA cores in there. I don't think that's truly what's happening. But again, I don't have evidence or proof of that. So at the end of the day, even if that is what's happening, NVIDIA can choose to do that, which is where you as the buyer choose whether or not you want to buy the card. And that's what it really comes down to. It's a little bit faster. It replaced the 2080 at the same price point. They got rid of the stupid $100 Founders Edition price bump that we all complained about when the 1080 launched in 2016. Where we complained that that $100 price bump is only going to confuse the market and it's going to artificially inflate pricing, which is exactly what happened. 99% of the AIB cards were all priced to compete and exceed the Founders Edition pricing because they put more R&D into their coolers, they're bigger, they're robust, they're custom PCBs, they're better boost tables, boost clocks, better acoustics, all those things. Being in the better category, they of course want to charge it and price it more than a Founders Edition card. So finding any card at MSRP was extremely difficult. Well, it's had a positive impact, where by getting rid of the Founders Edition pricing now, this card, and the reason why we're showing it here, and we showed it in our benchmarks, is, in my opinion, one of the biggest, baddest, best overclocking card that you can get for any of the NVIDIA stuff, this being the EVGA for the Win series. The full name of this card, EVGA, I'm looking at you now, unfortunately, the EVGA GeForce RTX 2080 Super for the Win 3 Ultra ICX2. That's the full name of this card.
Don't you mean Extended Video Graphics Adaptive GeForce
Extendo Video, cuz!
Extreme 2080
Extendo
Super
Video.
for the Win 3 integrated, or what is it, Intelligent Cooling Extreme?
Again, I've said it before, you can call it the Super whatever you want, you can call this card whatever you want. You could call it Tanpax Plus Edition for all I care. If it performs, who cares what it's called? But that's besides the point. One of the reasons why we tested the AIB card here is I wanted to see how much extra we got out of this. Typically with the AIB cards, you get extra boost clock because of better performance. You obviously get better thermals. This card never exceeded 59 degrees in any of our testing. Open air test bench, of course, and I'm going to stand by that, which I have for years, because it means the limiting factor in cooling is the cooler itself, not the chassis or the box that it's stuck in. This card reached, it's on the chart, 76, I believe it was. He can correct me if I'm wrong. And then this was 59. And because of that, we saw slightly better scores with this card, even though it only boosted to approximately the same frequency as this card, which is, I believe it was 1925. But what we saw was the fact that this maintained that clock better because of the better thermals and the way GPU Boost 3 works, because of the overhead and power draw and all that sort of stuff. If we moved the power slider on this, we would have gotten even more, but all the settings you saw and all the scores you saw were out of the box for both of these cards, just to see how they sort of compare. But that was a long-winded way of me saying, by them getting rid of the Founders Edition pricing, this has a $69 price premium, which is still within the $100 of what the Founders Edition card would have cost, but you're getting a lot more feature for it. So something positive at least came out of that. But this is one of those things where if you just bought a 2080 prior to the Super being announced and all that, you'd probably feel a little like, oh man, really? And this is one of those things that I believe creates trust issues between a brand and a consumer. When they're notorious for somewhere across the cycle of, or family life cycle, they'll come out with these slightly improved models. And this has been a trend since Pascal now. And it's one of those things that for me, I feel like this is what happens when you don't have competition up there in that particular space. I don't think Navi is going to be the answer anytime soon, because AMD, we've already talked about this a million times, has to gain traction back in the mid-range to entry-level market. That's where the volume of sales is. That's where they're going to get back some of that market share, some of that money, investor money too, to where they can build up Navi to potentially compete here. So NVIDIA is really just kind of up there, I think, bored, to be honest, which is why they do this kind of stuff. Maybe NVIDIA also feels that Navi's coming for them in the near future, so they're trying to add value by giving you more performance at the same price point. But it still generates that distrust that I think a lot of the audience and the industry sort of feels when you have a brand like NVIDIA that's an elite brand that can kind of do whatever they want. But remember, yes, they can do whatever they want. You can also choose not to pay for it. But if I seem like I'm being hard on NVIDIA, I think it's because, I mean, they hold themselves to being the best in the world. I think they have a standard to be held to. And some of these things I feel like I said, they create trust issues in the market, and I would like to see that kind of get resolved in the future. But all right, guys, I'm gonna go. Thanks for watching today's video. As much as it seemed unnecessary, it needed to be done. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Hey, AMD, what's going on? Yeah, I just finished right now. Is it checking the mail? Sweet. All right, we're going to Red Lobster on me.